Hey guys, Crypto Dad. Whoops. Oh dear. Hey guys, Crypto Dad here again. Thanks for joining me this morning on my first Tuesday morning live stream. I'm going to call this one Bitcoin Basics. I'm going to cover some really basic stuff for you guys. I hope you enjoy it. I will be open to questions. No question is too basic, guys. So if you're wondering about that basic stuff, here's the place. So welcome and let's jump in. All right, guys, welcome. I've got my not so clean Bitcoin shirt on here. I don't know what they call this, like a retro Bitcoin shirt. I woke up this morning. I had kind of been pondering a live stream for Tuesday mornings because I do my live stream every Friday night in the evening. And over the holidays, I had we were going to see relatives on Friday evening. And so I did my live stream early on those last two Fridays. And a lot of people that were already my subscribers kind of jumped in and said, hey, I'm glad you're doing a morning stream. It works well for me. So I'm hoping that, this Tuesday morning will be a good place for people that can't really make those Friday night live streams to join. And I'll still be doing the Friday night live streams. I've just decided to add this Tuesday morning and just an hour on Tuesday morning. So we'll see how it works out. When the kids are at school, I might not be able to do it right at 9, so we'll figure things out as we go along. But I got the idea to do the basics kind of this morning, and so kind of threw some questions together. Maybe as we move forward in the year, I'll do a little more prep and have like charts and stuff ready for you guys. But anyway, let's greet who's here. We'll go over here to this browser for now. And let me just see who's here. Dipshay Shah, hello. Rob, he's here. That's great. You were here the other day in the morning. I remember you guys. Shamin, I hope I pronounced that correctly. Raman, hi, sir. Hello, you. How I Made, that's an interesting handle. Hit the likes. I appreciate that. So the first one that I wanted to cover was what is Bitcoin? And I know that seems a little basic, but let's see if I can get over here. There we go. So what is Bitcoin? All right. So a lot of you joining may have bought Bitcoin and maybe never stored it in your own wallet. So maybe you're not really sure what Bitcoin is. You know it's something that has value. You think of it sort of like a stock or a commodity, and that's one way of thinking about it because it is something that you can buy and hold. But it's digital, all right? And it's completely digital. There is no real world alternative for Bitcoin. It's like, the US dollar, you've got digital versions of US dollars all over the place. We use them all the time. Our bank accounts, we have an app that we can transfer money or pay our bills digitally. So the US dollar operates digitally in many ways, but at its most basic, it is a thing that you can have and hold. A US dollar, which is printed on paper, is a US dollar, right? That's what it is. Whereas Bitcoin, you can't really print it out. You can't really print out a paper version of a Bitcoin and take it to a store and have someone accept it as value. Bitcoin at its most basic is digital, a bunch of zeros and ones on a computer. But it's more than just on one computer, right? A Bitcoin is stored on a thing called the blockchain, which is a digital ledger. Now, this digital ledger has a record of all the Bitcoins that have been created and all the transactions that have been created since its inception in 2009, 2008, 2009. And that record is like a huge file, and you can store that file on your computer. You can download a blockchain node to your computer. It's quite large. And then that node, it will sync itself to all of the other Bitcoin nodes or blockchain nodes that are stored on other computers. Now, some of the more recent wallets that are out there don't actually download an entire blockchain node to your computer, right? They just query the blockchain on other computers. So it makes it easier, right? You don't have to store this giant thing on your computer. So we'll talk a little bit about that. But that's Bitcoin at its core. And that digital ledger is immutable. It means that it cannot change. So once you have purchased a Bitcoin and you control it, then there's a representation of that Bitcoin on those blockchain nodes all over the world that are all synced up to each other. And nothing can change that, right? Now, you could lose your private key and lose access to it, but it would still be there on the blockchain. So let's see. A couple more people are here. Rob, Rotterdam. I think Rob had mentioned that he's in Rotterdam and this time works well for him. So I'm glad you're here. M200. As I mentioned earlier, I'm hoping that I'll catch some of my subscribers at a time that's convenient for them. So I'm going to start doing this morning live stream so you guys can throw out questions and stuff. All right. Got my Midnight Blue MCO card. Saving up for the Jade card. That's cool. MCO cards are from crypto.com. If you look in my description here, there's a bunch of affiliate stuff that I encourage you to explore. I kind of put the topic at the top today. So, but I've still got all the stuff that I hawk and shill, or what do you want to call it. I get a lot of offers to advertise stuff, believe you me. And, but I only stick with the ones that I really believe in. Crypto.com is one of them. Ledger is one of them. Brave Browser is one of them. And, I believe in these things. So I encourage you to check out all my affiliate links and check all that stuff out. Did I leave? Oh, I did this twice, didn't I? Let's get rid of this part. There we go. We don't need that. All right. And then also there's a link in my description for privacytools.io. I'm a big believer in privacy and anonymity, basic right for everyone. So I invite you to check that out as well. And we can talk about those types of topics as well down the road. So, but I wanted to do kind of a little experiment, because when I started this channel, my intention was to be able to demo things for people so that you could wrap your head around it. When I got into blockchain, I was sort of fumbling around in the dark, 2013. And I was trying to understand this whole Bitcoin blockchain thing, and among others. And I kept wanting, if I could just find somebody, somewhere, some website, some video, whatever, that could just give me an example and show it to me from beginning to end and give me a good example that I could sink my teeth into, I could get it. Because you can explain something over and over again till you're blue in the face. But seeing it happen really kind of drives the message home. So I wanted to do an experiment, guys. We've talked about blockchain a little bit. And so I want to demonstrate just a little bit about what blockchain is and what a hash is, and how a hash can prevent the blockchain ledger from being altered. All right? So here we go. I've got a file on my computer. You can see it right here on my desktop. And I've just opened it up. And this is the blockchain at its most basic, right? There's a lot more complicated things that go into it. But this is a very basic blockchain right here. It is a record of a transaction, and it's 2 BTC from Alice to Bob. All right? That is our immutable record. Well, it's not immutable yet, right? I can change it. But we're going to do something that's going to give us a record of that. And I have a MDA or MD5 and SHA checksum utility. And what this piece of software does is it'll perform a mathematical transformation on a computer file, and it's going to give me what's called a hash. Now, this hash is a unique number derived from all of the information in that file. And so what this hash will be sort of a record of that file. So let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to hit browse, and I'm going to go over to my desktop, and I'm going to open up this little test block here. And when I open it up, it's going to generate some hashes for me. We're going to stick with the 256. I'm not sure what Bitcoin does, if it's a SHA-512 or even longer. It might even be longer. But we'll stick with the SHA-256. All right? So we're going to copy that into our clipboard. And then I'm going to open up this other file over here that's a list of my hashes. And I'm going to just paste that in there. Now, that looks weird, right? But if I were to send you that blockchain, that test block, you could do the exact same thing on your computer. You could run that mathematical transformation using this hash utility. Now, there are online ones as well. This is, I don't want you to think that this is that, specialized, right? You could do the same thing online. Let's see here. Let's do that. There are online SHA-sum checkers. Right, here's one. You could do the same thing online. This is the same process, right? The same mathematical process. We'll do the test block. We'll run it. We'll make sure it's a 256. And then let's take that one that we generated locally and copy that. And then I'll put it back in here, right? And then we'll compare. And they're the same, right? So this mathematical transformation that generates SHAs is a set algorithm that doesn't change, right? It's always going to generate the exact same hash. So if I sent you my test blockchain, you could run that hash and verify that it has not changed, right? But what happens if we change it? Okay, so let's go into our test block and let's be bad, right? Let's say, okay, Alice goes in there and says, you know what? I'm going to alter it. I'm going to say I only sent him one Bitcoin, right? I'm going to alter my simple blockchain. Now I'm going to do the same thing I did before, right? I'm going to find that file. I'm going to run my hash. There's my 256. Now let's check that hash. Did I? Oh, Lord. I must have, I think that was it. Sorry about that, gang. All right, so there's my hash that I generated on the first copy. Now let's compare it to this new hash that I just generated. Oops, they don't match. All right, so this hash that I generated will tell me the truth, right? If one small part of that file is altered in any way, there will be a different hash generated. That's how the blockchain is immutable. That's how the blockchain remembers what it was before. It doesn't, you don't have to look at every piece of the blockchain. Every block has a hash that is a hash of the previous block, right? So if anybody goes back to the blockchain, the real blockchain, and alters it, then the hashes won't match anymore, and they'll know that it's not the proper blockchain, and it won't get added to, it's not a proper block, and it won't get added to the blockchain, right? So that's how, it's all mathematics, right? That's how Bitcoin keeps that record, and can't be changed, or it will immediately realize that someone has tried to alter the past, the ledger, right? So I hope this isn't too much for you guys in the morning. Let me see how things are going over here. Ed is here. P2SH is not part of Bitcoin system either. Okay. All right. Let me go back and see what people are saying here. Got my midnight blue, blah, blah, blah. Thank you so much for that. How I made. Scott Lee is here. Good morning. Good day. Good to see you here bright and early, Scott. What time is it in Hawaii? What are you, 4 hours behind where I'm on Eastern time. So you must be at least 5 hours behind me. I could be wrong. Greetings from Switzerland. I like BTC because it's decentralized. Explain the chain of digital signatures, why SegWit is not Bitcoin. We'll check into that. SegWit is a software protocol for address formats, and as far as I know, that is part of Bitcoin, right? It's a alternate address format. So we can go into how Bitcoin addresses are calculated and stored, right? Basically, a Bitcoin address it's sort of like my home address. If I give you my home address, you can send me a letter. So in the same way, if I give you my Bitcoin address, then you can send me Bitcoin across the blockchain, and your Bitcoin will become my Bitcoin during that process, right? So if you send me 0.1 Bitcoin, it moves from your wallet or your address to my address. So, and possession moves. And we'll talk a little more about possession as well. Let's see. PS's thoughts on Cryptarium. You should explain these things also. Privacy is not the same as anonymity. You cannot have a legal system that's fully anonymous. I can see you don't understand Bitcoin system properly either. You teach others wrong things. Well, I beg to differ with you, sir. Yeah. All right. All right. Greetings from England. I have a question about Ledger, if it's on topic. Dave, go ahead and throw out your Ledger question. One showing is worth 1,000 telling. Fake show me still can't move any coins. Fake show. All right. Yeah, go ahead and throw out your Ledger questions. But while I'm waiting for that to come up, I wanted to talk a little bit about possession of Bitcoin. This is a tough topic for people because generally we've become kind of lazy and complacent in the way that we possess things in our society because there are so many third parties out there that are holding things for us and willing to do work for us, like our bank account. So if I lose my ATM card, I can go over to the bank and show them my ID and say, I lost my ATM card. And they'll look at my ID, they'll verify that it's me, and they'll say, oh, okay, we'll give you a new ATM card. And they'll have me choose a new PIN or whatever I want to do. And so my access to my money in my bank account can be restored, right? Same way with Facebook or Twitter. If I lose my password, I can simply try to log into Facebook or Twitter and say, forgot my password. And, they'll send me an email and they'll say, okay, you just tried to reset your password. And I've proved possession of that account by the fact that I own that email address, that I have control of that email address, right? You think of another example. Let's say, I lose my ID. I can go to a government office, a DMV, or a driver's license office, and report that I've lost my ID and use other uh, ID forms of identification to prove who I am and get a new ID. Now, Bitcoin is not like that. Bitcoin, your possession is proved by your control of the private key. Now, the private key is a really long number that usually gets stored in a wallet and you don't even see it. But it's the access to that private key is controlled by your password to your wallet or your passphrase, which is a long, usually 12 or 24 word passphrase that you write down when you first start the wallet. Now, I get a lot of people that comment on my videos and they say, "Excuse me, sir, but I lost my backup phrase and I don't remember my password. How do I get my Bitcoin back?" Well, you can't. It's lost forever because your possession is determined by your control of that private key. If you lose control of the private key, the Bitcoin is gone forever. Think of it like a bearer bond. If you're afraid of, or if you know what a bearer bond is, it's a bond that has to be in your possession to have value, right? Whoever has it in their hand is the person that owns that bond. So that's the way Bitcoin is. So if I have a bunch of bearer bonds and I lose them, they're gone, right? There's no way to get them back. This is pretty much the same as like cash too. If I have a wallet full of cash and I drop it and I go back later and it's not there, that cash is gone, right? There's no way I can go to the bank or go to the DMV office and say, "Hey, I lost this cash. It's mine. Give it back to me," wherever it happens to be out there in circulation. Dollars don't work that way. So the Bitcoin is similar to digital cash in that if you drop it or lose it or forget your password or your passphrase, it's gone forever. All right, so let's check out, see if anybody... is Ledger just a secure online wallet? All right, so let's talk a little bit about what Ledger is. I've been talking about private keys, and this is a Ledger Nano X, and it is a keychain. It's a lot of people call it a wallet, and a lot of people think of it as a wallet, and it's okay to think of it like that. But at its most basic level, it is a keychain. It holds private keys. Now, we talked about that. Private keys are really long numbers that are used in cryptography to prove ownership. So if I want to send a Bitcoin from my Ledger wallet, I have to prove that I own that Bitcoin. And the way I prove that is by signing a transaction with my private key, right? So I'm not going to show you the private key. I'm not going to just say, "Okay, look, here's this really long number. That's my private key." That's totally insecure. If that's the way Bitcoin wallets work, then no one would really be able to control their Bitcoin because other people would see the private keys. What that private key does is it goes through a mathematical transformation on a transaction, and it does what's called a digital signature. So using that private key and that transaction, there's a mathematical transformation that takes place called a digital signature or a signing transaction. And once that private key is used in this signing transaction, that transaction, or it's now a file, right, goes out onto the blockchain. And then it says, okay, Rex sent 0.5 Bitcoin to Alice. And then the blockchain gets updated because of that transaction. But if I did not have access to that private key, I could not do that. All right, so the question was, is Ledger a secure online wallet? Now, Ledger Live, which is this software we have right here, It's an application on my computer. And as you can see, I can go into Ledger Live and see my balance, right? I can look at my balance. I can see what coins I have. I can see basically how much they're worth right now. I can see how many of the coins I own. All of that stuff can be read from the blockchain publicly, right? Nobody needs any control to do any of this, right? It's public. Now, if I want to send any of this out, then this little private key holder needs to be used to sign an outgoing transaction. And then that requires the confirmation with these little buttons. So basically, these private keys are separated from the internet, right? I don't want anyone to see them. And not only is the key hidden, because I can't even see the key, it's stored, mathematically in the circuitry. I can't even see the key, but I do have control of it with these buttons, right? So not only is it hidden from you and me, but the control of the private key is denied to everyone except me because I control this device, right? Now, if I lose this device, I'm okay because I also have the 24-word recovery phrase. That's also a way of controlling the private key. That is a backup of my private key. And I have that stored in a safe place, written down on a piece of paper. If I were to lose this ledger, I could simply get a new one and restore from that backup and have access to all of the wallets that I have. So the ledger device, although I'm saying it is a keychain, it is also what one would call a cold wallet or a hardware wallet. I think I've got that down in the description. A cold wallet is a wallet that never really exposes its private keys to the internet, right? So, and this is the most safe and secure way to hold your private keys, in my opinion. There are other cold wallets out there. Trezors are great too. I just prefer Ledger. I've been working with it for a long time. There are a lot of brands out there where cold wallets where you can store your private keys. There are other more complicated ways of doing it. You can have an air-gapped computer that is got an offline wallet on there, and you can use that air-gapped computer to sign your transactions, so you're really never exposing your wallet to the internet. All right. Dave Kite says, I jumped past his question. All right, Dave, let's look what you got here. Do Bitcoin receive address change in Ledger? I think I've seen different addresses for the same wallet, but I'm confused. LOL. Shouldn't the public address stay the same? Good, very, very good question, Dave. Now, we talked about this digital. Bitcoin is, there's a private key, and then there's also a public key, and the public key can be derived from the private key using math, big, huge prime number kind of stuff, huge math. This is the kind of math that's like, woo, way over my head in many respects. Much more complicated than 1 + 1 or 1 × 3 or, we're talking huge prime numbers. We can derive that public key. Now, you never really expose your public key to the internet unless you send Bitcoin out. Then your public key is in that transaction. But if you just have a wallet that's only received, you got like a wallet that only stores Bitcoin, then even the public key isn't exposed. But beyond the public key, there's another key, or number, which we call the receiving address. Now, the receiving address is what we talked about, where I can send you my receiving address and you can send me Bitcoin. The ledger with the Bitcoin wallet, now the Ethereum wallet's different, but the Bitcoin wallet, when I generate a new receiving address, it's always different. But it's always derived from the same public key. So the Bitcoin will always come to me. So let's do a quickie. All right, I'm going to turn this camera on here. Let's get in here. This is my... Alrighty. All right, so I'm in this is the home screen. I'm going to go into the Bitcoin app. All right. Now we're going to go over here to, here, I'll hold this up. All right, let's go over here to accounts. Let's go to Bitcoin account here. Now, suppose I want someone to send me Bitcoin. Sorry, guys. I need to get this a little closer. All right. There we go. Sorry about that. All right, suppose I want someone to send me Bitcoin, right? I'm going to do receive. And this is it shows me the same account that I'm in right now. And I'm in the Bitcoin app, and my ledger is unlocked, and I'm in the Bitcoin app, so I'll hit continue. Now, it's going to verify the address. This is going to be the receiving address that I'm going to give to someone. Sometimes I'm giving it to myself if I'm withdrawing from an exchange. So let's hit continue here. There. That is the address. Now see, it's showing up on the device too. This is a native SegWit address. It starts with BC1. Now I can look at the address down here on my screen, and I can compare it to the address on my device and make sure they're a match. This is a fail-safe. So once I've done that, I'm going to advance using the metal button here. See that little arrow right there? I'm going to advance, and then I'm going to go to approve and hit both buttons. Got something on my finger there. You look at your finger in times 10 magnification. All right, so this address, now the question was, why are the addresses different each time? Shouldn't they stay the same? And the answer is that since these addresses are unique, since these addresses are public, anyone, if I send you this address and I say, hey, send me some Bitcoin, you can look at this address and see its full transaction history on the blockchain using a blockchain explorer. The blockchain is not hidden. The blockchain is public, right? Anyone can look at it. So if I keep using the exact same address over and over and over again, all of the transactions that come in on that address become public knowledge, or are public knowledge, and anyone can look at that address and say, oh, look, Rex has been getting Bitcoin from like hundreds of people. You know, he's running a coffee shop or whatever, and I can see he's got like 5 Bitcoin, man. I want to like rip this guy off, right? That's just one scenario. But really, I really don't want everyone to see all of the Bitcoin that I get, right? Someone could say, oh, look, Rex gets, you know, little tiny amounts of Bitcoin on a regular basis, or Rex gets huge payments, you know, from, you know, some address on a regular basis. I don't want anyone to see my private financial transactions. So even though the blockchain is public, generating a new address for every single transaction improves privacy and security, right? So this is a unique public address that I can send to someone and get some Bitcoin from them. Or I can use it if I go on an exchange and do a withdrawal. And that's why it's and the ledger does a really good job of generating a new address for each transaction. Right? Now Ethereum isn't like that, but the Bitcoin wallet, Ledger Live's Bitcoin wallet, does do that. It generates new addresses. So I hope that covered that question. All right. Oh, let's see. I'm gonna go back over here. Okay. Well, I'm glad there's people here today. That's good. No, it's a way to keep your private keys to your crypto offline. Right. So, and I'm going to go through the setup of another wallet that's a little less secure, just so we can kind of wrap our heads around things. But let me just see here. ADA inside testnet wallet. The testnet wallets and reward wallet show 0 balances. I do show that I'm earning ADA in the stake pool dashboard. Sound correct. By the way, Ed should start his own channel. Now, I know it should not say that it's empty. I'll go ahead and launch the Daedalus reward wallet. It may or may not pull up while we're speaking. We'll see. We'll just kind of keep an eye on it. But yeah, you should once you've created your balance wallets using your restore phrases, then it prompts you to create a rewards wallet, and then you move those test balances into the rewards wallet. Now the rewards wallet should say you've got a balance, right? It's going to show you that there's ADA in there, even if you're delegating, if you're staking, right? All right. So, but we'll keep an eye on that and see if it comes out. But I wanted to do a Electrum wallet. The Electrum wallet is a desktop-based wallet. You can download the Electrum wallet from their website, right? It's a great Bitcoin wallet, and it stores the information on your computer. So, and the private key. Now, it's encrypted and all that good stuff, but it's on your computer. So if your computer gets hacked, or someone manages to gain control of your computer and sit down, then they could use this wallet and gain control of your private key, your Bitcoin address, the Bitcoin that you own. But it is, it's a good wallet. Now it doesn't download a full node to your computer. It queries blockchain nodes on other computers. It has a network of servers that have blockchain nodes on there. So it doesn't, I guess what you would call it's a light wallet, right? It doesn't download an entire Bitcoin node to your computer. So it's kind of cool in that it's not so intensive or, God, I can't think of the word. Resource intensive, right? It's not taking up space on your computer and spending all this time updating the blockchain, using up your bandwidth and your internet quota and all that junk. It's a pretty decent wallet, right? So, but I'm going to create a new one. Let's try a new one, right? So we'll create a brand new wallet and we'll call this new wallet. Now, when we create a brand new Bitcoin wallet, what we're doing is generating a random private key. And you might say, gee, what if I generate a random private key that is exactly the same as someone else's private key? Well, the chances of that happening are astronomical. We talked about, in an earlier live stream, we talked about, pick up a grain of sand on a beach and somehow mark it, if you could mark it, but not so that anyone can see it, just so that it's that grain, it's this, you take its DNA or whatever, and then throw it back out there on the beach, right? And then bring in someone that was, behind a curtain that didn't even see where you threw it, and tell him to go out on that beach and find the exact same grain of sand. All right, that's kind of what we're talking about, but that's even, let's say he's just arrived on the planet and he has to find your grain of sand among all the beaches in the entire world. Just think of the amount of grains of sand there are on the world. And then, take that to the solar system level and the galaxy level. The chances of you finding the exact same grain of sand twice in that pool of grains of sand, then you're sort of getting an idea of how the private keys work, right? They are vast numbers, right? But we're going to go ahead and create a standard wallet here. I'm going to hit next. Now it wants to know if it's going to create a seed for me, right? When it generates that long private key, it's also going to generate a seed, which is a mathematical representation of that private key in human readable format, a bunch of words, right? Easier for me to write down 12 or 24 words than to meticulously write down a 256 digit number or whatever the number turns out to be. So, you know, you can use this wallet to restore other wallets, but I'm going to create a brand new wallet, right? And then it wants to know whether I want to create a SegWit type wallet or a legacy. Now there's a newer one called native SegWit, which I don't think Electrum Wallet supports yet. I may be wrong. I haven't downloaded a new version in a while. Let's hit next. All right, and it's going to generate this key right here, or seed they call it. This is a 12-word seed. Now, I'm never ever going to use this wallet because I've just exposed that key to the internet, right? You guys have seen it, and other people that watch this video have seen it. So it would be foolhardy of me to transfer Bitcoin into this wallet, right? And that's the warning here. Now, this is the thing that if you lose this and then you forget the password to this wallet, you're done for. I'm gonna copy this, and then I used to do this on my early videos, and I got a lot of flack from people, and they were like, was it new wallet? They were like, oh God, don't copy and paste your seed phrase. And that's good advice, right? Normally what you should do is write it on a piece of paper, right? So no one can see it. And then we'll click next. Now it wants it back again. So I'm gonna just copy it from here. I'm just being lazy, right? It wants to confirm that I have it written down. And there we go. Now it's asking me to create a new, I can create a password or not create a password in this wallet. In this case, I just won't, right? I'll just make it an easy wallet. Anyone could sit down at my computer and use this wallet. Very insecure, right? So we'll just do that. All right, and there we go. We've got an empty wallet, right? It's got 0 micro Bitcoin in there. And if I wanted to receive, I could go over here to the receive tab. It's going to give me a receiving address. That's the address, the receiving address. I copy that into my clipboard and send it out to my friend and say, hey, send me some Bitcoin. But of course, I wouldn't do that with this wallet because that private key has already been exposed. All right. So normally you would only look at this yourself. And if I somehow lost this computer or accidentally deleted this wallet, I would just go back and do a restore using that same thing that we started with before, right? We could just do this part and we give it a new name, and then we would simply, it would be a standard wallet. We would say, I already have a seed, right? Right, and then we would paste that seed in here. This is called a restore. And then I could create a password or not, and it would basically end up, see, it's the same wallet. I just gave it a different name. But if, and then if we went to receive, see, it generates the same address. Right, so that's a creation of a wallet. We want to save this seed so that we don't lose it. And then I just did a restore of that wallet in case like I accidentally deleted it or my hard drive crashed or the computer got stolen. Something like anything can happen, right? Or I get a new computer and I want to put this wallet on that new computer. No problem, Rob. Thanks for letting me know. All right, so I hope that this is useful to people. I'm going to start doing this every week, and hopefully it'll be helpful to people. And I'll probably kind of go over this stuff again with you guys. We will maybe move some crypto around like I do in the other one, but I wanted to try and cover the basics as much as possible in this video. Let me kind of see where I am. There were some things I wanted to talk about up here. I just want to make sure. We talked about blockchain. We talked about a hash. We talked about a Bitcoin wallet. So a Bitcoin wallet is a usually a piece of software where you can control your Bitcoin. You can see its balance. You can send and receive Bitcoin. But you're not really sending and receiving it from your computer. You're moving it around on the blockchain. So it's going from one area of the blockchain to another. You just happen to be in control of one of those blockchain addresses by virtue of controlling that private key. The private key is on your computer, is in your possession, right? But the Bitcoin and the addresses are on the blockchain, right? So possession of Bitcoin really just means I control a private key that gives me access to a Bitcoin address, right? Yes, keychain. Yeah, Gizmax says the same thing. Keychain is more accurate than calling it a wallet because at its core, even this Electrum Bitcoin wallet, even though it's called a wallet, is more accurately a keychain. And my Malwarebytes doesn't like it very well either. But yes, that's a very good point that you could call this piece of software also a keychain because I could create multiple wallets on within this software that I have access to, but they're basically just keychains, right? They're just ways to start the car, if you want to think of it like that. All right, let's go back. John, there's some more people that I'd like to welcome. What if Ledger goes out of business? Now, I hear this one a lot. If Ledger goes out of business, you can use your 24-word recovery phrase to restore all of those wallets to different wallets. So that 24-word recovery phrase that is generated for you when you create a Ledger, when you initialize a Ledger device, they generate a master private key and they give you the master recovery phrase. Any wallets that you create on that Ledger are derived from that original private key and that original recovery phrase. So if Ledger goes out of business and I can't use Ledger Live anymore, let's just say they go out of business and then Ledger Live becomes inoperable, right? I can still take that 24-word recovery phrase and recover those private keys into different wallets, right? The Electrum wallet, maybe even a Trezor, or there are so many different other types of wallets that you can, because the 24-word recovery phrase that Ledger uses is part of the BIP39 protocol, which is an industry standard. So because Ledger follows, let's see where we are here. Because Ledger follows the BIP39 protocol, there we go. That's the spec there. This is all mathematical, agreed upon, open source, decentralized. Anyone can look at it. Anyone can see the code. Anyone can use the code to create their own wallet. It's an industry standard. So if Ledger goes out of business, you just fall back on the mathematics that they've used because it's an industry standard. I could use their recovery phrase to recover my wallets into other types of wallets, other manufacturers, or just, I can just see the private key if I use the BIP39 tool. So there's always a way to recover the Bitcoin or the Ethereum or the Litecoin or whatever you happen to have stored on your Ledger if Ledger goes out of business, right? So we talked about the first scenario. What if I lose my Ledger device? Use your backup. Restore to a new Ledger device, right? What if my computer gets wiped? Reinstall Ledger Live on your computer and you can scan your Ledger device for wallets and private keys and regain access, right? What if Ledger ceases to exist? Then we use our 24-word recovery phrase to import those wallets into different wallets, right? All right. But I can chat but can't see your video. Very odd. That's weird. I think I'm still broadcasting. Let's look over. Did I disappear? It looks like I'm still in, broadcasting video. That's good. Yeah, I'm not sure why you're not seeing video, but I'm here. Oh, I'm here. Okay. All right, let me go back up here a little bit. Oh, okay. So what if Ledger goes out of business? A very good question, an oft asked question. What some exchange can blacklist your BTC? Yeah. The reason that that's happening, and that's just a factor of the fact that the blockchain is transparent, right? You can see the blockchain. Now, and you can see the history, right? So if a scammer has stolen a large amount of Bitcoin and put it in a wallet with a public address, which, Bitcoin is public, and everyone knows that that is an attacker's wallet, right? Or stolen Bitcoin, then certain exchanges can blacklist that Bitcoin wallet, right? They won't allow people they can like shut down the account or whatever. That's kind of beyond the scope of our discussion today, but that is to combat criminal behavior, right? But I just want to point out that Bitcoin is perfectly legal, and moving your Bitcoin around is perfectly legal. A lot of people bash Bitcoin by saying it's used for illegal purposes, but cash is much more prevalent in the criminal community, right? So if you're it seems odd that people could bash Bitcoin because it's used by criminals, when, and then I could come back and say, yeah, but cash is used, US dollar cash is used more by criminals than Bitcoin. People don't seem to get that, right? Because everyone sort of knows and trusts cash. So I can't besmirch the reputation of the US dollar by pointing out that criminals use cash to launder their ill-gotten gains and buy things under the radar and that sort of thing. But when anyone points out that maybe Bitcoin is used in that way, everyone immediately gets afraid of Bitcoin, right? But Bitcoin is not anonymous. It can be traced. It's actually less private than cash. That's part of its use case, right? We want it to be transparent. So don't believe it when people say that, Bitcoin is used by criminals and, you shouldn't. They've been saying that since 2017, ever since, and before, ever since Bitcoin became sort of popular and mainstream, with its price action. Powers that be have been bashing it because they say it's used by criminals. So don't buy into that argument. That is logically, that is false. It is used by criminals, but not to it is not the majority of Bitcoin transactions are, just regular people using Bitcoin. That's what we want, right? All right. Have you heard? Okay. Sorry, I'm getting a little behind in the questions here. Welcome to everybody that's joined. Edward, John, Ingrid. Have you heard about what they're going to voting with Digidao? That I'm not too sure about. Maybe beyond the scope of this basic thing. We are moving up. Can I trust the creation of a seed phrase, that it is really random or no algorithm behind it? I really want to. Nicholas Guster pointed this out. I had thought about that, and I wanted to broach this topic here in the basic. Let's say, and I get this a lot with Ledger. People will say, you know what, Ledger is generating pre-made seed phrases, right? And they have control of them. And then at some point in the past, their evil plan will come to fruition and they're going to steal everybody's Bitcoin. I get that one a lot. And it's not out of the realm. I mean, I can understand why you might think that might happen. But That's not how it works, because even though the circuitry is proprietary, right? It's not really open source, but it conforms to standards, right? There are standards, and there are standard-based organizations that take this device and test it. If it were generating pre-made 24-word recovery phrases, it would immediately be obvious that it was doing that. So they're not doing that. I don't know how to explain it any better than that. Maybe I'll get a better like example. But if it were generating, if it were preloaded with 24-word recovery phrases, it would be painfully obvious to people that test it, right? It conforms to standards. It gets tested by third parties. It generates a random master private key, and then from there, that seed phrase, that backup phrase, gets derived. Those are completely random. If they weren't, it would be obvious, right? There are people that test these devices to make sure. The same with the Electrum Bitcoin wallet. And the Electrum Bitcoin wallet is a little bit different because it's totally open source, right? So anybody can look at the code, and if there was something in the code that was generating predetermined private keys, it would be painfully obvious, right? So a very, very, very good observation question, but something that's not happening because we've got open source software. We have, volunteer people working on the code of Bitcoin and Bitcoin wallets. We've got testing people that are testing these products independently. So if any of these products, this software, Electrum software wallet, or the Ledger Nano X, were generating or came pre-configured with private keys or passphrases, it would be obvious, right? It would immediately be known, right? So you can trust that this is generating random private keys, right? All right. Now, don't ever buy a Ledger device secondhand that already has a private key on there, right? I think some people on eBay, maybe even Amazon, third-party people are selling these devices, and then when you get it and open it, they'll say, okay, here's your key, right? It's already been... That is definitely not kosher, right? You don't want when someone sends you a device and they've already given you the recovery phrase, that's a red flag. You want to do the initialization of the device and have the device generate a new random private key and passphrase. Right. Okay. Happy New Year, Mr. David. Good to see you. Sorry I didn't catch you Thursday, and I think I missed you Friday because I was here early, and so I didn't see you Friday. It's kind of a crazy holiday, so thank you for your patience. All right, dollars are used by criminals too. How much do you think Bitcoin will go down to? I'm hoping that it won't go down too much further than it already is, but a lot of people talk about Bitcoin going to zero. But if you look at the chart of Bitcoin since its inception, it's a gradual rise, right? A lot of people talk about its all-time high of 20,000 and how it's not there anymore, right? But that is it's cherry picking your facts, right? There are many other statistics that show how healthy Bitcoin is. For example, at the beginning of 2017, Bitcoin was around $1,000. By the end of 2017, it was at around $20,000. That was a big jump, but it did go down in 2018. But the low in December of 2018 was around 3,000. And then 2019 has seen it revisit 13,000, right, in around June or July, right? It hit 13,000 briefly and came back down. It's now sitting around 7,200. But my point here is that it has not revisited $1,000 since 2017, right? So I don't see it going back to zero, right? And I'm not a chart guy. I don't analyze charts and everything. I'm just looking at the generalized history of Bitcoin in general, right? All right, guys, let me just greet everyone that came. Dave Kite, if Ledger creates a new receive code each time, how can a single address be used for things like public donations? That's also a good question. If I just save a Bitcoin address that I've generated with my Ledger and just put it on in a text file or whatever, I can, and maybe even save the QR code, I can continue to use that public address. And it, even though it's generating a new address, when I use the Ledger Live, that old address, all of the old addresses still work. All right. So I could, on my website, and in fact, I do. If you look down here, I have some Bitcoin addresses for donations. Those never change. And they're always going to go into my wallet. Even the same wallet that keeps generating new receiving addresses, the old receiving addresses still work, right? So even though it's generating new ones, they'll all be going into the same wallet and all of the old ones still work. Now you can have multiple wallets. I'm just trying to keep it simple. We're just assuming that I've only ever created one Bitcoin wallet ever using my Ledger. And then I'm using Ledger Live to generate new receiving addresses when I want to keep things private and secure, but all of the old ones still work. So I could still give that one address in my description, and I would still get that Bitcoin. It will continue to work. All right, so let's see. Let me wrap up here. The best way to start this day and finish this year is with your live stream. Thank you and Happy New Year to you and your family. Cheers. Zowdy, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. For those of you who joined late, I've decided to do a Tuesday morning 1 hour stream, and we'll see how things go moving forward. I want to try and be available for people that can't catch my Friday night live streams, maybe in different time zones, that kind of stuff. But I'm going to try and keep this one basic, right? Just answering the basic questions, try to explain things for people in simple terms, and try to give you more concrete examples. I did one earlier, but I'll try to, prearrange some good demos as we move forward, because I just sort of thought about this morning when I got up. I was planning a Tuesday morning live stream I've been thinking about it for the last several months, but this morning I said, hey, how about a Bitcoin basics? And a 1 hour format. So we'll kind of stick to that and see how things go. I'm really glad that everyone came in, and I'll talk about different wallets. Save your questions. If you're at home and in the middle of the week and you have a question that pops into your head, jot it down on a piece of paper or a sticky note, stick it on your monitor, and throw it out in the live stream when just save it. It's a good way so that when you join the live stream, you'll think, man, I was going to ask him something, I can't remember what it was. Just jot your questions down over the course of the week, throw them out here. I'll do my best to get them answered. It's great seeing everybody. I'm going to sign off now. Let's see, I think I still got this guy going over here. Don't forget, there is still a live stream every Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Holidays are behind us now, so I'm going to move back into that evening spot again. I did a couple early the last couple weeks, but we're going to do the Friday night every Friday, and then I'll start doing the Tuesday mornings. I can't give you an ironclad guarantee it'll be every Tuesday, but I'm going to do my best. But I have committed to the Friday, so that's going to stay where it's at. So please join me. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up before you sign out. I appreciate that. If you're new and you want to subscribe to the channel, that's great too. When you subscribe, there's going to be a little bell that will alert you whenever I post new content. I do the live stream on Friday. I'm going to do the Tuesday morning, and I'll also be posting standalone videos on, different topics that are a little more formal. So I invite you into that too. Once again, thanks for joining me, and hope to see you again soon.